Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Sunday Summary Talk Show. I'm your host, Kyle, and Steve is not with me today, so you guys are stuck with just me, but that is just fine because honestly, we have a lot to get into. A lot has developed over the last week. The breaking news this morning that I'll really just jump right into because it's interesting and there's a lot to talk about on the topic is Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz has officially agreed a deal, it looks like, according to Fabrizio Romano, with Bayern Munich. Now, to be honest with you, I mean, this is something we've been following for, what do you guys say, about a month or so? Really, about a month. Originally, the report was that we rejected the first bid. First bid was said to be around, if I remember correctly, like in the 60s, right? 60 million or so. But the package that's been agreed, according to Fabrizio Romano, is a 75 million euro package. Okay, so slightly higher. And it says with add-ons included. Contracts till 2029. And they're discussing the add-on details. So who knows? This could get up over 80 or so. Personally, and some of the stuff I've seen on this topic is justified. This, to me, seems like a fair deal. Because if you look back, we got Diaz for, I'm trying to remember, guys. Something tells me it's 55, but I really don't think it was that high. I think it might have been lower. I think it might have been 40 or 50 in that range. I'd have to look to be exact with it. But the 75 million with add-ons included, let's call it 80. Let's call it 80 because that's what we can expect it to rise up to. For Luis Diaz is fair. The problem that arises, and we'll discuss this a little bit later as well after we discuss the Isak stuff. The problem that arises with that is, what about the gap now at left wing? So now you have this concern at left wing. Now we did see a change in formation right against Milan, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. I didn't like how open we were at the back, but I won't get too much into that. I'll stay on topic for just a second. You know, we go on tangents here, but there is a gap on left wing. Now, if we don't stick with a traditional, one guy in the middle, two wingers formula or formation, let's say, it's not too big of a concern. Plus, you got Rio and you got a lot of guys who can, I guess, fill in over there. A lot of people saying Florian Wirtz can even play on the left wing, what have you. I think he's more of a central player. There's no doubt there is a gap in left wing now with this deal going through. But it's a deal that I think needed to be done. I think Darwin Nunez is next. It's just a matter of where. And I think it's a win-win for all parties. And this now opens the door for Isak to actually get pushed over the line because the fact that, and you guys saw it with Hugo's interview, when he said, like, I wasn't told there was another striker coming in when I signed, there's a lot of moving parts right here. A lot of moving parts. And the thing that I keep coming back to, and good morning to everyone coming in now. The thing I keep coming back to is the glaring areas we need reinforcement that we're not necessarily getting it. Right? And even Slot had said earlier this week that you could argue we haven't replaced Jarell Kwanzaa, which, and a lot of you guys could probably attest to this, we have a vacancy at center back. Now, you could argue if we do go with three at the back, which, I mean, shoot, even Gravenberch started. Now, I know preseason doesn't matter, but I mean, Gravenberch and Van Dijk, right? We know Gravenberch isn't going to play there. He could play there in a pinch. Sure, he could play there in a pinch. He's got the size, strength, and all that, but let's not count on that. Let's talk about pure center backs. We are selling players off. Now, the window's young, but we're not replacing the areas we actually need players. In my opinion, center back's one of them. So, with Luis Diaz going, all right, it's interesting. It's good to see an outgoing because we've been bringing in so many attacking players with the exception of Kirkesh. Actually, and Frimpong. So, might be talking out of my ass here, but let's just keep going anyway. Darwin's next. So, you bring in Isak. Ekitike. You have a solid attack, and then you have Gakpo, who, in my opinion, I feel like is a better left winger than Diaz. And I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to put it out there for you guys to pick apart. Let's have this conversation, okay? And I've been critical of Diaz for a long time. And if you go back on this show, you go back on various Sunday summaries, I have flip-flopped a little bit depending on his form. But let's just have a conversation about Luis Diaz not being a direct enough winger. He's had spurts where he's been very good. There's no doubt about it. He's a very talented winger. But for me, there was a point in time where he just could not finish. I mean, him and Darwin both just could not finish. And then he'll go through spurs. I think it was at the beginning of last year and maybe even the year before where he starts out hot. Like he gets like 5 goals in the first 8 games or first 10 games, but then he goes on just a dry spell. Right. And there was this thread that I found that I screenshotted because I thought it was really interesting. And I'll read it for you. This is from the Premier League panel here. And it's just an interesting take. And I want you guys to let me know what you think. It says, quote, Luis Diaz is a floor raiser winger, not a ceiling raiser. He carries the ball up the pitch. He retains and recycles the ball well, and he works tirelessly, in terms of pressing, and has 7 out of 10 off-ball movement box threat. He can carry the piano for Elise and Kane, but 65 to 70 million pounds is an overpay. So this is kind of saying like he's good, but he's not that good. All right. So I would have approached this differently, but I saw it and I wanted to bring everyone's attention to it. I would have approached this take as it's an overpay, but different reasons. I feel like he's dynamic, but think about it, guys. How often do you see Luis Diaz beat his man? How often do you see Luis Diaz attempt to beat his man, stop, and just recycle the ball? Or at the very most, cuts inside on his right foot and goes all the way across the middle of the pitch. Right? And look, this isn't being critical of Luis Diaz here, but this is just, we're selling him. Let's look at why. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over this. I'm not losing sleep over Darwin Nunez. I'm just saying, like, hey, see you later. You know what I'm saying? And with that, I want to leave you guys to think about it. And I want to go over to the chat and say good morning to everyone. Good morning, Oyvind, Nelson, William, Alexi. What's going on, man? Hannah, everyone in the chat, make sure you smash that like button. Alexi here says, I agree, love Diaz, but it's just a bit short of what we need, and we want to continue winning titles. He was good, right? He was good. Not great. Certainly wasn't Mane. Certainly isn't even sniffing Salah. And just an average guy. You'll look back at Luis Diaz, you'll just be like, oh yeah, he was okay. You're not thinking he's anything special, so I'm not losing any sleep over this. And, you know, Bayern Munich, seems like we have a good relationship with them. Maybe go into a different league. He blows up. He starts playing well. Seems like a perfect type of winger for Bayern, by the way. I just want to throw that in there. But the price, very happy with the price, and I'm expecting it to rise up to about 80 million personally with add-ons. And Oyvind says we're getting pretty good money for him, I think, and I agree. I don't think it's an overpay by any means. I think that that's the market for a winger. You just won the Premier League. You're a consistent starting player for Liverpool Football Club. I don't see this value as being an overpay. If you want to argue an overpay, it's certainly not an underpay. If you want to argue it's an overpay, maybe you could argue 5 to 10 million over. But I don't think so. I think it's actually good value for money. Fireburn, what's going on? Jordan Welch here says he thinks Ekitike, I'm going to struggle with that one, will play both left wing and striker next season. Can't forget we got Gakpo, who for me would be the starting winger. I think we all can agree that Gakpo is just so much better on the wing than he is through the center of the pitch. I think we all know that. And I think Gakpo right now, if I'm slot and I'm looking at the two of them being Diaz and Gakpo, I'm starting Gakpo. Am I wrong in saying that? Maybe I'll ruffle up some feathers here on today's show, but to be honest with you, I think that's a given. Yeah. And Tony, what's going on, man? Hope you're enjoying your time in Italy. Bonker says, I thought we agreed a deal for Gahey, but only a fee. We didn't sort it yet. I haven't seen anything develop on the Gahey news in 3 weeks or so, since the last time we discussed it on this show. Yeah, and Gahey wasn't selected for Palace. And that leads me to Darwin as well. Darwin was left out of the squad, so it's only a matter of time before we get a deal sorted for Darwin. So that's Darwin out the door. That's Diaz out the door. And, they've clearly been replaced, especially if we get Isak. And I just think it's crazy, too, that it's so funny to me how players do this where the Isak thing is now his dream is Liverpool. He's only wanted Liverpool. Every single player only wanted Liverpool, only wanted Liverpool. It's probably PR, let's be honest. But to see Isak and him reject Newcastle's new offer, I don't know how true this is, but I saw they were ready to offer him like $300K a week. Who knows? I really don't know. Is anyone else seeing a weird problem with signing two strikers like that? Unless you are gonna, I mean, maybe I don't know Ekitike's game as well as others, but to me, Isak is the number one starter. Like, no question. I think everyone agrees that. And maybe Hugo's just depth. Maybe I'm looking at that wrong. A lot of people are saying, oh, maybe we'll play two strikers up top. I don't remember the last time a team did that, unless you're a Burnley. I don't think that's the case, but I don't know. I'm not big into that. But again, this is the first time we've seen Slot have authority over the transfers. Right? He didn't make any signings his first year. At least I don't think he did. Anyone that mattered, anyone of real relevance, let's put it that way. And so now you're seeing the players that he signed. I mean, we've just balled out this transfer window. And I'm just not used to seeing these specific signings, like two strikers, right? And I'm just used to Klopp. I'm just used to Klopp signing players that can play in every position across the front. Now, I'm not saying these players can't, but when you're looking at a player profile, you're looking at an Isak, you're looking at an Ekitike, you're looking at tall, lengthy guys, right? And I'm not saying tall people can't play on the wing, right? Let's not discriminate here. I'm just saying that's the profile of a striker or a center back. I mean, and I'm not used to that. So for me, it's kind of catching me off guard when I'm seeing two strikers being bought in the same window. So I'm like, what's going on? And that leads me to the glaringly obvious left wing issue, where could you argue Rio is ready? Can we argue? I mean, he has been unreal in the two games that I've seen him play. I mean, really, really good. But I thought the same thing about Trey Neone last preseason. And I was like, oh, this guy's ready. I mean, he could play. And then you don't play. I don't know. I want players like that to be given a chance. And I saw something interesting too. It was saying that, Liverpool have a 16-year-old wonder kid, but no one's talking about him because he hasn't come from La Masia, which is actually an interesting take, because the second any academy player from Madrid or Barca play and do anything somewhat good, they're worth $100 million. It's tell me I'm wrong on that. Tell me I'm wrong on that. Let's go over to the chat real quick and say what's up to everyone. Yeah, Gakpo is Slot's guy. I agree. I absolutely agree. Edward, Squidly, what's going on, everyone? Michelangelo, Hugo can play different types of positions. Fair enough. Gary Richards says they can't play together, one or the other. For one, it's Hugo at times and Alex at times. And I think this is what Slot is trying to create is just super depth where every single competition has a specific starting 11. Great. Love it. Love that. We had record setting low injury rates last season. And I love it. Keep it going. Keep it going, Slot. Tater says, I don't see Slot playing both. Yeah, neither do I. This is what I'm saying. I don't see it happening. But clearly he wants a striker. And God rest his soul, Diogo Jota was probably the best center forward player we had. And there's no doubt that's playing into this equation. I just don't know how much. And to be honest with you, who's to say we wouldn't have even sold Jota anyway? Because there were rumblings of we could sell him. Not a lot, but I did see him. And I think everything that I need to wrap my head around, and I think all fans do too, is Klopp made us believe that Liverpool played with certain style of players, right? Very versatile forwards specifically that could play in pretty much every position across the front line. And Slot is clearly taking this approach of, okay, we're going to get strikers. We are getting strikers. I mean, yes, sure, they can play across different positions, but Alexander Isak is a striker. Hugo Ekitike, not as up to date on him, but he's a striker. And traditional striker in that sense. I guess maybe a little non-traditional because they can play different positions. Okay, right. Nitpick all you want. It is not the type of... When we signed Darwin Nunez, guys, everybody was like, this is not a Klopp. This is a weird Klopp signing. And ironically, I guess he was the one who really pushed for it. But you know what I'm trying to say. The Jotas of the world, the Gakpos, these players that aren't truly any one position. They can play anywhere, and they have played anywhere. And I think it's just why it's blowing my mind with how we're approaching this window. But it's got to be one of the best windows Liverpool has ever had as a club. In terms of not only amount spent, but when you look at the caliber of player we brought in, now this is assuming they're all not flops, but I'm saying coming into the transfers, when you talk about caliber of players, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. Let's go back over to the chat. Darius says we need Isak and a left wing. Gakpo doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry. And Gehi under Leone. So Gakpo, Darius, I want to touch on this a little bit. Are you saying Gakpo doesn't do it for you on the left wing? Because I'm going to have to disagree with you, my friend. I mean, God, Gakpo for me is way more effective and productive on the left wing than Diaz ever was. And tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. But when I watch Gakpo play versus Diaz, yeah, Diaz is more appealing to the eye. But Gakpo, man, when you compare Gakpo playing through the middle and then when he plays on the left, night and day. Absolutely night and day. Ross, what's up, man? I love that the way is pretty much clear for Isak. And that's remarkable. It is kind of remarkable that we sign, knock on wood, we sign Isak and Ekitike in the same window. And now I just saw something with, I think it's Wissa of Brentford going to Newcastle. Man, Newcastle, I thought when Newcastle were taken over, they didn't have necessarily the pull of a Chelsea. They didn't necessarily have the pull of a City per se, but I definitely thought they were going to be, and they are. They're better. They're definitely good. They're competitive. But I thought they were going to have a lot more pull in terms of the caliber of player that they brought in. And the players they've gotten are, I mean, Sandro Tonali for me for me, and Isak were the best signings they made. Those were great, great signings. I mean, Botman, I think Sven Botman plays for them. They have some pull, but I was expecting more. Like people were saying Mbappe to Newcastle. We know that's not going to happen, but it's interesting how it's played out. Yeah. I needed to put my 2 cents in on that. Newcastle have pull. We have more. That's absolutely right. Kyle, Rio, Ekatike must start it. Look, for Rio, for me, first off, Rio is great. The problem is his age. Because we have so many good young players. Now, we don't have a lot of great young players. I mean, but when for the eye test for me, you got Rio, and I am on Trey Neone. I am on that bandwagon. Okay. I like him. I love how he plays. And you could argue that Rio in these games has just stepped up because it's a good opportunity, but that's a great sign. When you're given the opportunity, even in preseason, you step up and you play like he has. I love it. Something tells me neither Trey nor Rio are going to play at all this season, unless it's a League Cup. But Rio's got it. He's got it. Small sample size, but that kid has it. Oyvind says Gakpo was so good last season. Absolutely. John Henry, thanks for being in the chat, man. Appreciate what you're doing for the club financially right now. If we can get 60 million pounds for Darwin, most of our money back, that will be great business. If he's going to Saudi, you better upcharge because you can get it. You can absolutely get it. Okay? Don't settle for 60. Push a little bit, okay? Because what I need people to realize, and I think everyone knows this, Darwin isn't even in his prime yet. I mean, he's like at the front end of his prime. And yes, he hasn't really fit in here. We've seen the flashes, but it's just not cutting it. His career is probably going to die if he goes to Saudi. I think we all know that. But that doesn't mean he won't be great there in that league. And I think that's where you can get extra value. Is you're not selling a flop of a player that's exiting their prime. You're selling a guy that's in his mid-20s. And he's a striker, super athletic, great work ethic. You bought him. You did buy him for a lot, though. You did buy him for a lot. So you want to recoup that. So you're asking at least 70, right? 75. In my opinion, that's what I'm asking for Darwin. Hannah says, yeah, I'm blown away that we have Verts. Me too. He looked very solid. In my opinion, I've seen people pulling up the stats and everything, but I think everyone who's watching the game sees the quality that Verts has. Ross, going back to Rio, says, that's wise. We don't want Rio burning out like Sterling. Did Sterling burn out? Am I missing something? Or did Sterling just say, like, force a move to City? Or are you talking about burnout over the course of his career? Because how old? Sterling's got to be 30 by now. Hold on. Wow, he's 30. He's only 30 years old. All right, Ross, I stand corrected. Okay, he's only 30. Wow, that's wild. Maybe he did burn out. Yeah, we were. I mean, Sterling, Sturridge. I mean, yeah, we were for sure. But I want everyone to. What do you guys think the formation or the lineup looks like with this team if we get Isak? All right, let's just say we get Isak. Yes, Oyvind, I agree. He was greedy. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if we get Isak, what does this lineup look like? Because with Diaz out the door, if you wanted to, you could do a 3-4-3. You could even do a 4-3-3 if you wanted. But something tells me, with how slim we are at center back right now, the smarter option is a 3-4-3. And we have a lot of depth at left back. So you could really do Van Dijk and Robbo. And then you have Frimpong. Anyways, what I'm getting at here is right now for me, the starting three would be Gakpo, Isak, Salah. Am I wrong? And then behind them, I'm seeing Gary come in here. Gakpo, Ekitike, Salah, Isak, Verts. 2-4-3-1. What are we talking about? Did we mean to type 4-2-3-1? Because 2-4-3-1, I'm almost positive is not a formation. I'm giving you a hard time, but I'm almost positive. I'm sure maybe in the course of the game it'll become one. See, Oyvind, this is where I'm at, man. This is why I posed the question to the chat, because I have no clue. No clue what's going on. But, so you mean, okay, Ascend is saying 4-2-3-1. Okay, I gotcha. Gary says 4-2-4. Okay, I could actually see that, 4-2-4. And before I jump into that, I actually wanted to go over the actual post from Fabrizio Romano regarding Isak. So the most recent one that I saw was that there's nothing ongoing between Isak and Al Hilal. Isak has already turned down Saudi options. He said no to and his wish remains to play at the highest level in Europe. The real club in concrete talks for Isak was, is, and remains Liverpool. This deal will happen. My mind will be blown, but it will happen. I'm a very firm believer this deal will happen, and it'll change pretty much everything. It's just so wild to see. We were linked with Rodrigo for a while too, and then I just saw something coming out that Tottenham might get Rodrigo. I think Tottenham suit Rodrigo better, don't you? Don't you guys? I think Tottenham suit Rodrigo way better. But who knows? With the window we've had, if we get Isak and Rodrigo, if we don't win the league, then it's a failure. I'm sorry. Absolute failure. To quote Steve, because Steve is a very Steve goes above and beyond. He'll say, like, if we don't do X, it's a failure. And it's like, whoa, Steve, if we don't win the Champions League, Premier League, League Cup, and FA Cup, the season's a failure. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Jordan Welch says 4-2-4 without the ball, 3-4-3 or 3-2-5 in build-up. Where is Steve? Steve's having a baby, guys. Steve is having his second baby. So that's exciting. But yeah, so the formation for me, what makes sense is 4-2-3-1. And this makes sense to me because with your lack of quote unquote wing depth, you can play with attacking mids almost. And in attack, those wide mids can push up and your wingbacks can push up. Then you're attacking with like 7 dudes. So for me, 4-2-3-1 is the formation. Okay. And you got Gravenberch, McAllister, but then pushing up, right? You can have various players. You could have Gakpo, Isak, assuming we get Isak, Salah, Verts. You could have Soboslai, Verts, Hugo, Salah. I mean, there are so many options. There's so much depth. And so that's the only thing I feel like that maybe that formation limits us with. If you go with a 3-4-3, you can play everyone you want to. You can literally play everybody you want to because of the depth. But I don't know how common that's going to be. I don't know if that'll be maybe an approach that Slot takes when we go up against the big teams, right? We need more attack. But let me tell you something. Against Milan, when they were quick, when they won possession back and they were quick on the break, we looked horrible defensively. Horrible. I mean, nobody was back. And that was something I said I loved about this past year with Slot was that people were back. We had defenders back. We weren't so high up the pitch. And I feel like against Milan, and I mean, it's never been more apparent than the fact that we gave in 4 goals, but so exposed. If we lost possession, we were done. Oyvind, I am afraid of saying it. You got a problem? I'm terrified to say it. I'm terrified to say it. But Hugo, come on, Hugo's, let's be honest. Hugo's, it's easier. It's fun to say. Just say it. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. Ross, we saw this against Milan. Gravenberch started there. I was saying Gravenberch and Endo can cover at center back, but do you want that, Ross? Do you, deep in your heart of hearts, want that? Because I know I don't. In a pinch, sure, but I don't want it. I do not want it. But, that's just me. And so Gary asking, who's the 9? Well, it depends because we're assuming that we have Isak. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think you probably. Oh, dude, I have no idea. I really don't. I haven't put enough thought into that because until we get a firm lineup, like there's a lot of rumors still going around. We haven't sold Darwin yet. We haven't even got in Isak yet. We don't have all of our center backs, which, by the way, Gomez looked pretty solid. There's a lot up in the air. So I don't want to give my opinion on that just yet. But Ross brings up the point, all that money and no center back yet. There has to be someone we want, and it has to be the right deal. Let's remember that, because when you look at the market for all of these other types of players, there's a big market. There was a big market for Wirtz. There was a big market for Isak. There's not really a market, aside from Gahey, what market for center backs is there? There's really not. So would you rather spend the money on Gahey, or would you rather just, as we were talking about earlier, have Gravenberch or Endo cover that position for the time being and then wait for the right person? Because yes, it's stressful. Yes, you run the risk of one injury ruining everything. So you probably should get someone in. I don't know. It's tough. We definitely need a center back, but from a business standpoint, do you buy someone just to cover the void until someone you really want becomes available? Oh, God, is Gomez actually injured again? Don't do that to me. Don't tell me that. I haven't seen anything about that. I could go on Twitter and see it, but I don't see anything about that. A man with no name. So this is going back to the Diaz thing. First, why are we selling Diaz? He has been great for us. Second, for only 65 million, he is well near 100 million. Okay. So first off, let's look at his market and see what he is actually worth before I comment on it while we wait for this to load. So his value is 70 million euros. Okay, and this is according to Transfermarkt. All right. So there's the first thing. Second, it's 75 million. Obviously, it depends on the currency you use, but 75 million with add-ons being negotiated. So if you want to take it at that value based on Transfermarkt and what's being reported by Fabrizio Romano, a man with no name, it's actually above his value, not to mention the add-ons. So you're getting more than market value for him, slightly, but more, and you're making a profit on his initial purchase price. And overall, when you take into account his wages and everything, you're turning a profit on the player, period. And that's to answer the second part of your question. The first thing, why are we selling Diaz? I think Is it just me, or has Diaz been linked with a move away since he got here? I said that last week, but he has literally been linked with a move away since he stepped foot into Liverpool Football Club. That's it. Second, he's just a guy that he is the guy you have to sell. There's no one else on the team that you're going to want to sell. I don't want to sell Gakpo. He was actually linked with a move to Bayern as well. But Diaz, to me, is the odd man out. If you're going to sell anyone in your attacking line, it's Diaz. I rate Gakpo higher than him. I think that's strictly what it comes down to for me. I rate Gakpo higher than him. Not a drastic amount higher, but definitely higher. Gakpo for me is actually a better winger. Completely different type of winger, way more direct, definitely not as shifty, not as technical. But Diaz just doesn't do it for me. He's been great. He's not someone where he's linked with a move away and I'm like, no, we can't sell him. It's not me. So that's me. Diaz is the best left wing in the league last season. I have a lot of initial things I want to say on that, but I need stats to back it up because I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if that's coming from a place of opinion or if that's coming from a place of fact. So let's look. Okay. Are you sure Jack Grealish wasn't better? Oh my God. All right. So the only person I initially thought of was Son. Right? That was the only person I thought of if you wanted to compare to Diaz. And stop. I don't want all these pop-ups, dude. Just stop. So Premier League wise, all right. So across all competitions last year, Son, 46 appearances, 11 goals, 12 assists. Very interesting. Let's look at Diaz. I'm doing this for you, a man with no name. Before I critique, I want to look at the statistics because you may be right statistically. But even so, you do want to make sure that if you have someone that's better or can produce more, you get the value for this guy. And Luis Diaz, 70 million. Let's look at statistics from last year. Come on, where are we at? I don't want career stats. I want stats from last year. Here we go. Bear with me, because for some reason this is the slowest site in the history of mankind. Why is it doing this? I clicked this season, not all seasons. Let's just do all seasons. Why not? Jesus. Transfermarkt, you're really messing with me today. All right. 36 appearances in the Premier League, 13 goals, 7 assists, 1 goal in the EFL Cup, 3 goals in the Champions League, and 1 assist. So we're looking at 17 goals, 8 assists in 49 appearances. So statistically, slightly better than Son. Yes. Yes. Okay. I don't know. For me, and Oyvind, you got to back me up here, man. But I truly feel like, I mean, if I pull up Gakpo, all right, you might win this debate. You might win this debate. If I'm taking the stats route, you might win. Hey, by the way, Gakpo's value is 70 million as well. Just want to put that out there. Come on. Any slower, you'd be going backwards. All right. Let's talk about this. 35 appearances in the Premier League, 10 goals, 5 assists. You're going to regret doing this. Gakpo and Diaz are virtually the same player. All right. So Gakpo in all competitions that he played, he probably played in less. Wait, 35 plus 6, you got 41. They played in the exact same amount of games, 49 across all competitions. All right, last season. Gakpo ended with 1 more goal and 1 less assist. They're the identical player, dude. All right. So what this comes down to is the eye test. Diaz is more shifty. I like Gakpo. I like Gakpo better. Gakpo has played more at center forward. Not last year. Not last year. Under Klopp, yes. Klopp played him at center forward, and we argued he was better on the wing. Last year, Slot was playing him on left wing. He played Diaz more through the center, I feel like. Am I wrong on that? This is crazy. Both players have played center forward. I see you guys talking about this in the chat, but we pulled up the stats. They're identical players statistically. Play style completely different. There's no arguing that. But I feel like Gakpo was Klopp's center forward go-to if Jota wasn't available. And then last year I feel like he played on the wing. He played on the wing more. He played. Oh, why do they do this? They do this by all time. Okay, no. Here we go. So center forward, he's played 71. This is Gakpo, by the way. 71 matches, and I could filter it, but this is his whole career. 71 matches at center forward, left wing 219. 219. All right. We'll put that there. Put a pin in that. We'll go back to Diaz. Where are you at, Diaz? There we go, buddy. Come on down. Same thing. Actually, no. Center forward. Maybe I'm going to bite my tongue on this one. Diaz has only played center forward 20 matches in his career. That doesn't seem right to me, bro. That doesn't seem right to me. This is a great debate. This is a great debate because there's stats to back up every viewpoint. I really like this. Shayna, what's going on? A man with no name says he doesn't want an Isak. Okay, fair enough. So that kind of justifies where you're at. Tony prefers Gakpo. I feel like anyone who watches the games, and of course you're entitled to your opinion. That's not what I'm criticizing. But when Gakpo got his chance at left wing, you immediately saw how much more effective and productive he was compared to when he played center forward. I feel like Diaz goes through these spells where he's just not an X factor in the match. He's just not. I feel, and it's left wing because we just saw he's only played 20 matches apparently at center forward, which is wild. Gakpo is a more effective left winger than Diaz for me. On paper, though, it's kind of crazy. If you guys want to go look at it yourself, same exact value, virtually the same exact amount of goals and assists. It's actually crazy. But that's my opinion. Diaz was better on the wing. Gakpo can play center forward and left wing, so Klopp used Salah, Gakpo, and Diaz. Yep. Rodrigo be better signing a potential Salah replacement. We're not even talking about Salah replacements. Okay? We're good. Blake says, I'd take the Dutchman. Gakpo makes a quicker impact on the field. You never walk alone. Blake, this is what I'm saying. I feel like the eye test itself, it's Gakpo. And it's all about impact. It's all about impact. Yes, we've seen stretches where Diaz is getting, like I said, he started out the season really hot. I think he had 5 goals in the first 8 games or something, but then he's just a non-factor. And Gakpo, man, I'm just telling you, go watch Gakpo and how impactful he is. And he makes a difference. He can beat his man. He can score from the left wing. I almost said more better. Cancel the show if I ever say that. He is more. Now I don't even know what I was talking about. He's just a more effective player on the left wing than Diaz is. And that's my opinion. Jordan Welch, the fact that people don't want Isak is wild. I get the criticism of Isak, don't get me wrong, but he is a phenomenal player. I think we all know that. He's just great. Shit crew, what a name. Sells Tsimikas, Nunez, Diaz, maybe Elliott. Okay, so Nunez and Diaz out the door. See you later. That's already a done deal. We're just waiting on Nunez to be finalized and obviously Diaz to be official. But Tsimikas, yeah, maybe. But to be honest with you, I don't think it would be smart to sell them until you get a center back. And the reason I say that is because you need all the defenders you can get. Even if it's a fullback, you need all the defenders you can get just in case something happens. That's just where my head's at. I'm kind of playing risk analysis here. But the Elliott thing has surprised me. We talked about this last week. I am surprised they have not sold Elliott. It's very surprising to me. If it's a depth thing, great. Elliott is not going to get a lot of playing time. I mean, in comparison to the amount of playing time he was getting under Klopp. I mean, he had like the most appearances of anybody. I don't rate Elliott as high as I rate Curtis Jones. I said it. Elliott had way more potential, but I have not seen the progression I've wanted to see. To be fair, Jones hasn't necessarily taken a huge step either, but this is a very similar situation to Gakpo and Diaz. When I watch the two, I prefer Jones. When I watch the two, I prefer Gakpo. And so, yeah. And if you want to talk about traditional midfielders, Curtis Jones checks that traditional midfield box, bar none, when you compare to Elliott. Elliott doesn't really have a set position. I feel like he's just in limbo. He can't play center mid. He could play a cam role, but he just doesn't. And he's not really quick enough to play on the wing, and he's certainly not playing with Salah playing there. So Elliott is kind of the odd man out. You could put Jones in any 3 midfield position, and he'd be fine. In fact, you could even play Jones on the wing if you wanted to. It's very odd. By the way, that reminds me, Szoboszlai could play on the wing. If in a pinch, he could. So if there's one of the players that you're going to be sold, that's going to be sold, it's Elliott. I don't think Jones is going anywhere. Or even said, I forgot Jones existed. Sure you did. Jones gives the ball away way too much. I'm sorry, but Jones has some of the best ball retention I've ever seen. Jones can keep the ball. Maybe he does give up the ball when he's passing. Maybe his passing isn't great. But if Jones is on the ball, I'm sorry, you're not getting the ball from Jones. I'm sorry. We need 2 center backs. Tony wants to keep Elliott. Okay, fair. And I can see it. I don't want to sell Elliott, but I mean, if we're thinking about it, I think Elliott would be the one to be sold. But I also think Slot wants him. I also think Slot wants him for certain games. I think Elliott is a stapled on player in all FA Cup and League Cup games. 100%. Yeah. Oh, even said seeing Jones on the wing would kill me. It would be kind of wild, wouldn't it? Tony says, I think Elliott will shine with new players we have brought in. Let's hope so, man. I know that would make Steven happy too. Iskander, welcome, man. Elliott needs a proper haircut if he wants to be taken seriously. Stop looking like a crack dealer. What the hell? We're just taking shots at Elliott all of a sudden. Elliott probably wants to keep his place in the England squad, so we'll need more play time. Yeah, everyone does bring up that argument. Shit crew, 94.4% pass accuracy by Jones in the Prem. So, okay, look, this is what I'm saying. I don't, when a man with no name says Jones gives the ball up way too much, the first thought that came into my head was, I don't think this guy knows ball. The only reason I said that is because when I watch Jones play, I never see him lose possession. In fact, I've said on this show, on the record, Jones's ball retention reminds me of Wijnaldum. It's that good. And so, but I didn't want to speak out of turn because maybe he did give up the ball a lot. So thank you for bringing that stat up. SJ says, Curtis has good ball retention, but he's so frustrating. I understand setting the tempo, but he's frustrating. Year 5 and his decision-making is slow. Can't progress. He's talented, but needs to improve ASAP. That is exactly how I feel about Elliott. So I think we're all in the same state of mind here when it comes to these two guys. You have two young guys that, frankly, aren't getting any younger, and they need to improve. We need to see some actual progression. And you need play time for that. So we will absolutely see what happens. Oyvind is killing me today. The problem is that Jones passes the ball like 2 meters. It's crazy. All right, guys. So let's kind of summarize everything here. So Diaz, nothing new developing on that except, since we reported it earlier in the show that 75 million and then add-ons are being negotiated with Bayern for a deal. And we saw that coming. Isak, that's been developing for like 2 weeks. Apparently only wants Liverpool, so I'm expecting a signing there. Hugo, we signed him. Yes, I'm afraid to say the last name. And it's not because I don't know how to pronounce it. It's because there's a lot of consonants back to back to back to back, and I might slip up. So I don't want to embarrass myself. Fikito, happy Sunday, man. And is there a problem at left wing? It depends on the formation. That's ultimately what we decided, because Gakpo can play left wing, and for me, he's the best left winger we have. He's not, maybe that's not his traditional position, even though he has played the most games at left wing. So in my opinion, it is, but he is the most productive / effective left wing we have, especially now that Diaz is on his way out. So it really depends. We have a lot of options, but we do need a center back. Get a center back. Yesterday. Get a center back. All right. Where's Ben Davies? Bring him back. Where's Kabak? Bring him back. Get somebody. Get somebody at center back. Because you know Gomez is due for an injury. And then literally, who do you have? Van Dijk. You have one center back. I don't even know. Just get a center back. Unbelievable. Thank you, everybody, for joining on today's stream. Make sure you like the stream, share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate all the input throughout the show. Today was a great show, and it's only going to get more exciting as the season approaches. They're starting to play matches now. Preseason doesn't really matter, but we're starting to see a lot of good things, especially from the younger players. So I'm excited to see how the rest of the summer and the rest of the preseason turns out. Again, thank you. Oyvind Sacco. Bring him back. Bring back Lovren. Bring them all back, man. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. And until next time, take care.